Speaking of which, Stephen, as we look through the SEC this week, Texas A&M, we were talking about the Aggies last week and even anticipating them getting destroyed by Alabama, still thinking, okay, they've only lost one game to date. Now it's two, but they've already beaten Arkansas. Ole Miss is down. Mississippi State's not showing us nearly as much as they did at one point in defeating LSU. LSU's down. Maybe they get off the deck, but Auburn being really the only clear-cut favorite over Texas A&M. Maybe the Aggies are going to be a better team and finish with a better record than anticipated early in the season. They've got an interesting date at Florida. Aggies at Florida. Gators coming off a disheartening loss to LSU 17-16. Not a big game here, but considering what Georgia's looked like in recent weeks, the big win at Notre Dame, dusted off Mississippi State easily, and Tennessee, hosting Mizzou, Auburn at LSU. Of course, it's always difficult to go to Death Valley. Auburn looks like the clear-cut pick there at number 10 in the country, but they did drop the game. The one game that they lost in 2013 en route to the BCS championship game was a game at LSU. So what catches your eye on the SEC slate this Saturday?
The Texas A&M Florida game is going to be really, really fun to watch. And Kellen Mond, as long as that kid continues to grow, that is going to be a special individual. I watched the Alabama-Texas A&M game, and I didn't know if this was Kellen Mond or Fran Tarkenton or Steve Young or Johnny Manziel or Joshua Dobbs dressed up into one quarterback. That kid made some plays. And even for the most Alabama fan that would watch this game and think, oh, the game was the game was never out of hand for the Crimson Tide, you can't tell me the moment Kellen Mond started making plays that you were not on the edge of your seat. Because I was on the edge of my seat. This kid is scrambling around, making play after play after play. Really did a good job once the defense got settled in. Kellen Mond was able to get settled in. And, Florida's got some good running backs. Michael Piron, the leader of that group right now with Jordan Scarlett out. But, Florida with Felipe Franks at quarterback, or should Luke Del Rio come back and play this week? That question's still kind of up in the air. There's a lot of talent on this Florida team, but I believe with the improved defensive front of A&M, Christian Kirk, you always have to watch out for him. I think the running backs of A&M get off the deck this week with Travion Williams and Keith Ford and Kendall Bussey. I like the Aggies in this one.
Considering that Florida basically needed a miracle at home to defeat Tennessee in the Swamp, and the Vols have looked awful most of the season against the likes of UMass, barely winning. Georgia Tech, they had no business winning that game, and of course getting completely annihilated by Georgia. Considering that they should have lost to Kentucky and Lexington, they needed a miracle to pull that one out. And considering despite the 2-touchdown difference on the scoreboard, if you watched the Vanderbilt game, it was in doubt until extremely late. Florida may be the most fortunate 4-2 team, or 3-2, whatever they are at this point. 2 losses, definitely. They may have missed a game there at one point. They're either 4-2 or 3-2, but the most fortunate 2-loss team in America to be standing at 2 losses and still alive in the SEC Eastern Division. Of course, they're going to need to beat Georgia head-to-head, and that could turn the division race, despite as well as the Bulldogs have played to date. Should be interesting. Aggies and Gators, they don't get together very often because of the rotational system in the SEC, but they will get together in the Swamp. And Auburn, LSU, of course, LSU making its last gasp to be relevant in the SEC Western Division race this Saturday at home against Auburn. Stephen M. Smith of Touchdown Alabama here to talk Tide, SEC, and the nation each and every week. Catch him on his show The Way It Is on Fox 97.9 weekdays 2 to 4 Central Time. And of course, the long-form conversation between Stephen and myself is available on Podbean, iTunes, and Stitcher. Just search Mark Rogers TV.